Okay, so we'll begin with from where we left off last time, where we signed this invoice, which was from SN Households. And from what we got, we were able to sign it and came up with the CU invoice number, which we shall use to sign the next credit note for it. So some of the fields that are required for a credit note include this CU reference number, as well as a invoice description that says credit note. So I've went ahead and created the receipt or the credit note that we shall be signing today, which will look exactly like the previous receipt. The only additions would include the reference number, which is here, and it is based on the invoice number that is gotten from signing a receipt, which is this one. So with the reference number that we shall use, as well as a separate invoice number sequence, you may notice that the sequence was a cell which was based on the date. Now for this one will be a credit, also based on a date, as well as the invoice description, which is a credit. Everything else remains the same as a previous receipt, so the only addition will be the credit and the reference number that we shall be used to sign the invoice. So I'll go ahead to our A-class driver, where we shall look at the receipt that we had signed. So if you may have noticed, you can only sign a receipt you can only sign a credit note receipt that you have already signed before. So we cannot credit a receipt that has not been through the system. That is why the first main important thing was to sign a receipt, which was this one. Then after that, we can go ahead and do a credit note for it. So we'll go straight ahead to the credit note, or we'll select the credit note that we'll be signing, which is this one. Then we'll go ahead and create a document type for it. We'll create the template name for it. Then after that, we select the required fields, let's say the printer, and considering the PLU location is on a straight line, we leave it at 0. Then we go ahead and set the position of the QR code. So do remember that you can choose to separate these two, the CSU information and the QR code, depending on the size of your receipt. Then we apply. Then we'll go ahead and delete the previous fields that are there, so that we can remap all the details that are required. You may have noticed that the system already knew, once it saw this receipt, the system already knew what to pick. That was based on the original receipt which I had signed before, which is this one. So the system is intelligent by itself and is able to pick out receipts from an invoice or a document type that you signed before. So we'll go ahead and map this receipt with the new fields that we are going to use. So we'll start from the start, where we'll first map the document key, which is the PIN. Then you go to invoice number. In this case, we shall be using the new invoice number to be able to track and separate different invoice numbers and also different credit note numbers. Then after that, we select an invoice describe. Do note that the invoice describe for a credit note needs to read credit. Otherwise, the system will not be able to know if this is a credit note that you're doing. So the credit as the invoice describe. Then the next thing will be the relevant invoice number. The relevant invoice number is what is used to tell the system that this is what you should be crediting. Then we will move on ahead to the item name. Now we shall map the item. Then after that we go to the sales price, which is now the rate, and then we map. Then we shall head to the sales quantity. After the sale quantity, we head to the sale amount. Then after that, we head to map the tax summary that we have. We shall start with the VATB, which is a 16% value, which is the tax amount. Then after that, we select the net total amount, which is the amount without tax. Do note that even if your system and you're dealing with items of different types, different tax categories, no need to worry. Just selecting all these specific fields, which is the 16% value, the net amount before tax, and the total amount with tax, the system can be able to backtrack the mathematics, and it shall be able to sign the receipt, whichever tax type that you have, or whichever goods with their different tax types. So we'll go ahead and select the last field, which is the total amount, the total gross, which will include the net amount plus the tax amount. After we've mapped all required fields, we shall head to our log section and then we shall clear it. After that, because we've already signed the receipt, we now need to copy the receipt and set it to the specific folder that we shall use for sign. In this case, the folder is in documents, ETIMS for sign. So we'll go ahead to the specific folder. We shall copy the invoice that we shall be signing. Then we shall head to ETIMS for sign folder. Then we paste it. So we shall first start it in test mode. We see the response that the system will give us. Then we'll go ahead and sign it in live mode. So the receipt is already there. We can now press start. As you can see, the system picks up everything and then it says receipt number is error. So some of these descriptions or error descriptions are very important once you're signing an invoice. So you can see it already picked the trader's system invoice number, the relevant invoice number. Everything has been picked well. We shall now try to sign it in live mode and see what the result will be. So we remove test mode, then we head back to the logs, we clear it, then we come and repaste what we are signing. Once we start the signing process, you can see in live mode the credit note was signed successfully, a receipt was attached, and a QR code was generated for that particular receipt. So if you've noticed that once you try to sign a credit note in test mode, you will receive an error. But if you're signing it in live board, then the system will be able to validate the reference number that you set with the current reference number to the specific invoice that is there online. Then after that, it will successfully sign and generate for you a signed receipt. So once you head to operations, you can be able to see the receipt that we've signed now, which is at 10:49. We can preview and see exactly where we had set the data. So you may have noticed that the previous reference number was for the previous receipt, which was 012, and it was this receipt from the invoice number. Once you've run the credit note, you will now get the new receipt, which is a credit. Then after that, you shall notice that the CU invoice number has increased. So this is already a signed credit note for the invoice that was made. And that is all that you need to do to be able to sign a credit note. So I will just reiterate over everything. So to generate a credit note for an already made sale or an already signed receipt, what you need is that exact receipt with a few amendments. The first amendment will be you will need the CU number. This is the first important value that is needed. Then the next, you need to have a template that is for credit note. In this case, this was our credit note template, where instead of an invoice, it is reading a credit. Then after that, you've noticed that the invoice number sequence is different from the normal sale sequence. Then after that, finally, we have the reference number, which is now the value of the invoice that was signed previously, which is gotten from here. With those specific details, once you come to the system, all you need to do is just create a document type for it. You can have different document types as they are seen here. Then after that, you can select all the specific fields that are relevant for that. Then with all said and done, you can just run any receipt or run any credit note that you want. You can pass a receipt onto it and it will sign. You can pass another credit note onto it and it will sign. So the system in itself is intelligent to be able to distinguish different types of receipts based on even the different field key sets that you select. Up to there, does anyone have a question in regards to how you sign a credit note? Okay. I will proceed to talk more about some of the features that we have that you can use, which are not tied to a credit note but are also very important. So you can also notice that we have an invoice status. Over here we have a status bar or a status section that shows you all receipts that are, or the summary of everything. So the first we have the serial number and also the model. Then over here, if you've noticed, we have an invoice status section where it shows the FC, which is 13. The FC is the fiscal receipt or the all receipts that are in the VSCU. And the web are the receipts that have been transmitted. So from here you can tell that FC is 13, which means all signed receipts are 13 and all transmitted receipts are 13. So there is no difference between, there are no invoices that have yet to be transmitted. You can also do a manual transmission. Just head on to ETIMS management, then you'll find the section that is called invoice management. From here you can do a invoice status upload where it will just pull the status of all the invoices. You've noticed that now we are at 13 and at web with at 13. You can also choose to just do an invoice manual upload from here, where it will now manually upload all invoices that have yet to be transmitted. Invoices cannot or may not be transmitted due to a few reasons, such as ETIMS being down, or also your internet connection not being stable enough to transmit the invoices. So you can do it very easily from the invoice section management. From our previous meetings, we had also talked about the item management, where you can be able to create new items, also import new items. You can import it by CSV that you generated based on this template that you can get. After you filled all the details correctly, you just select what you need to import. Then after that, you shall be able to update the item data. Then after that, the next question is on stocks management. You may have noticed that we have a few stocks that are zero. If we try to sell this particular stock, this particular items, we will get an error that we have no stocks. So I'll also show you how to add new stocks. From here, we have a section called stock management. In stock management, we can read all stocks that are there, and we shall be able to see all items based on their barcode and their name. And then we have the stock master, which is the list of stocks for all items that we have present. So I'll go ahead to show you how to add new stocks and how to remove stocks. So we'll start with this one, K1 fruit drops packet. We shall choose the stock type as an incoming adjustment. Then after here on change quantity, we'll put 1000 as change quantity. Then after that, we update stock data. Once it says update stock data is okay, just read the stocks. You'll now notice that our stocks have increased from which was 0 to 1000. With this, you have immediately added new stocks to this particular product. You can also remove stocks, let's say outgoing discard, then you change the quantity by 100. Then after that, we update the stocks. So you will get a notification that stocks have been updated. Okay. If you now read, you should now find that the stocks have been decreased by 100. Once we go to invoice or item management and we read the item data, we can be able to see that this product, the K1, its stocks are at 900. We had changed it to 1000 and then we later decreased it to 900. So this is how you can change or manage your stocks with very simple actions. So we'll add this again and then we add the quantity by 5000, then we update the stock. We get a notification that stocks have been updated correctly, and then we shall say that 5000. If we come to read the item data that is in ETIMS, you will find that the product has been added stocks worth 5000. With this now you can be able to both discard stocks, add stocks, and also you can be able to move stocks from one branch to another. Let's say, for example, on this other product, you want to move stocks from one branch to another. We can do an outgoing stock movement, and then we just select the quantity that we want. Let's say for this one, we can use this one as an example instead of this one. We choose outgoing movement, then after that we select the quantity that we want to transfer. Then from here, there is a branch ID that you get when you register. You can be able to change the branch ID and both select move to this branch ID. So let's say, for example, you can say the current stocks is in branch 11. We want to move it to branch 08. Then we press OK. Move to branch ID, OK. Then after that, we now just read the stock data. You'll now notice that there are 100 that we had set to transfer from branch 12 to branch 08 has now been transferred. So if we move on to our branch 08 and we read our stocks and items, we will be able to see all items or stocks that have been transferred. So that is it in regards to updating the stock, reading the stock, and also transferring stocks from one branch to another. So later we'll be able to cover other aspects such as purchase management. We'll prepare a scenario at which you'll be able to read all purchases that you've made by your PIN, and also the next time on the training we'll be able to tackle on customer management, which will include signing invoices or receipts that have customer PINs. So that is it for today's session, where we successfully signed the credit note for a receipt that we had set on our previous training section. So this was the receipt that we had signed before, which is the same as an household. If you have any receipts that you'd like us to sign them on our next training section, feel free to reach out to us and submit a soft copy of that receipt. Then we'll go ahead and demonstrate how to sign that receipt, how to add items on that receipt, and how to do all other aspects that are important in your day-to-day business. So thank you for your attendance on this meeting, and see you on the other meeting. Thank you.